We are watching data visualization using Tableau. In this session, we are going to see a very interesting chart called scatter plot. Scatter plot is a unique chart and is different from other charts in the sense that this is the chart that is used to plot the relationship between two measures. All the charts that we have done so far did not capture the relationship between two measures directly. Scatter plot is used to find out the relationship between two measures. So what are the two measures between which we want to see the relationship and why? There may be many measures depending on business requirement. In the data set that we have, one use of finding the relationship between two measures can be sales and profit. That means we want to see if the sales is going up, is the profit also going up or going down? Why is this important? We all know in business, sometimes you increase the sales by providing deep discounts. But initially, while it might increase your profit because the volume of sale increases, subsequently, it might affect your profit because the unit profit that you get by selling each product may come down. Hence, as a manager, you always need to know whether you are providing the right kind of discounts and maintaining the right kind of margin, and you are not pushing your sales, sacrificing your profit. Scatterplot will be able to plot this relationship. However, we need to also figure out that when we find out the relationship between sales and profit, against what dimension we want to see the relationship. Usually scatter plots are used to see the relationship against dimensions that has a large number of values. Because if the dimension has only few values, probably the relationship will not disclose any pattern. However, if the dimension has a large number of values, then it might bring out some exceptions. Let us try to see how a scatter plot of sales versus profit look like when we see it against order IDs. Order IDs are dimensions that are having a large number of values, and probably would like to see which order IDs are having a high sales but maybe low profit. So in order to do this, we will have sales and profit in our columns and rows. At this point, we can see the sale and the profit has provided one value, which is essentially the aggregate value of sales and profit. We also want to decide which will be the independent axis and which will be a dependent axis. It will make sense to make sales the independent variable and profit the dependent variable, because we want to see what happens to the profit when you increase the sales. So let us swap the two axes. So now we have sales and profit. Let's make this entire view. And now we are ready to figure out the dimension against which we want to see this. We can do this for order. Also, we can do this for product because the number of products also is pretty high. So let us do this for order. So this is the order ID. We want to see the plot of sales and profit by order. So we can put the order in detail. When you put the order in detail, a chart comes up which indicates the sales and the profit for each individual order. So each individual point over here indicates each individual order, and we can see there's a big cluster around there. So most of the orders are having sales around 4,000, less than 4,000, and profits like a little positive profit, maybe around few hundred uh, or so, maybe about 1,000, more than that, and we can clearly see some outliers out there. So before we go further, let us beautify the chart a little bit. We don't want the circles to be such big. There are too much of data. If you have such big circles, it's really not giving the picture right. We also want the circles to be filled. So let me have this fill circle. And now we have much better chart. And what we also want to do is we want to color this based on some attribute. Now we can do this. We can do the coloring based on a measure. For example, I can put profit in the color, and it will show the orders that are having high profit in deep blue and the ones that are having very low profit in red. But since profit is already given in the form of y-axis, probably we are not using the color palette effectively. So let me not use profit for the color. Let me use subcategory. So when I use subcategory, what it does is that these points indicate the various subcategories, and it shows the subcategories that are having, uh, uh, the subcategories against this order. So you can see these blue subcategories that are accessories that are clustered over here. But subcategories, the problem is that there are too many subcategories, so it's a little confusing. So again, instead of subcategory, probably let us try with category, and maybe that will give me better chart. This looks better. We have three categories, and now we can clearly see that there are few colors that are clustered near the zero, and you can see this is the furniture categories where the sum of the sales are not very high, neither are the profit. And there are few like technology where the sales are really high, and there are some outliers as well. Uh, so this seems to be a pretty well representation of how the sales and the profit relationship is divided by subcategories. Now, obviously, as management, we will be interested in some of the outliers. For example, this guy is outlier. So this is a particular order ID, whatever CA2016. This guy seems to have a very high profit and a very high sales, a very good order it seems. This guy is a very interesting guy. The sales has been very high, but the profit has been low. So maybe we want to investigate what was the compulsion that such a high value of sales was made with negative profit or a loss. This guy is also interesting. Though the sales value is not very high, it's a huge loss. And we may need to want to investigate that. So you can see that when you create this kind of a scatter plot, the exceptions come out very easily. As a manager, you may want to explore these outliers further. For example, let us look at this outlier where the sales and profit seems to be very high. If you right click, you can view the full data, which is the order, what is the value of sales, what is the value of profit, etc. So if you go to view data, you'll see this is the order, the total profit is 8,000 and the sales is 70,000. So definitely very high profit, almost 50%. If you go to the full data, we'll see that how many line items are there in this order. This order seems to have only one line item, and that one line item itself has 70,000 as the value of sales and 8,000 the value of profit. And the other interesting thing here is that Tableau has an inbuilt AI engine that will try to figure out what is the cause of this data being an outlier. What is so exceptional about this data? And if you go to the explain data, it will help you to analyze what is exceptional about this data. Now, it says that this particular case, the sum of profit is 8,000 and is higher than expected compared to other profits. And if you go to the details, you will see that the average profit is 8,000. Here, of course, the average and the total is the same because there is only one entity over there, and this is the element which is having the high, very high average profit. And if you go to the sales, it will show that it is higher than the average. You can see that this sale over here is higher than most of the other cells, and it's clearly indicating where the outlier, what is causing it to be a outlier, and the measure that is contributing it to be the outlier is essentially a profit, a very high profit. So this is the profit, very high profit is kind of contributing it. On the other hand, if we look at this data point, which is having a high, not a very high sales, but very negative profit. And if you look at the line items over here, so the order has a loss of 7,000 and the sale value is 5,000. So you've sold at 5,000 and you've lost 7,000, which is a very bad situation. And if you look at the full data, it consists of two line items. One line item seems to be having no, maybe a free item or something like that. It has no sale or no profit. And the other line item has been sold at 4,000 and the profit is loss, rather is 7,000. And if we get to the explanation of this, just ask Tableau to explain the data, and says that lower than the profit is lower than compared to the other marks. Understand that? And there's one extreme value of 7,000 that is causing the problem. The average is 3,000 because one of them was sold at zero profit and kind of the zero sale and zero profit. But there's one extreme value of minus 7,000 over here that is pushing the data to the outlier. The average profit is 3,000 minus 3,000, which is because the other product was sold at zero profit. And similarly, we can also see the product ID and the product name that contributed to this. This is the product name, Cubify Cubex 3D. That's what actually contributed to this huge loss. You can also figure out the subcategory that caused this problem, which is machines over here. So this is the analysis of the profit. Similarly, we can see sales. Now, in the sale, there is among the two units that has been sold, there's one extreme value. So you have to remember that this is just comparing within the units or within the line item. Otherwise, 4,000 sales is not an extreme value, but within the two items, two line item, 4,000. So this was the average. 4,000 is an extreme value. Average is because the other item was sold at zero. So this is the extreme value over here. So that makes the average sale as 2,000. And finally, let us see the third outlier, which is this one. So there's a loss of 2,000 on a sale of 23,000. And if we see that there are two line items, one has been sold at 1,000 with zero profit, sold at cost. The other has been sold at 23,000 with a loss of 2,000. And if we try to see how this this behavior can be explained, we can see that the profit is lower than expected compared to the others, which we can see. And because there's one extreme value, again, the extreme value is, you may say that, you may think that minus 2000 should be an extreme value, but here the extreme value is considering the two values that is available in this instance, which is 0 and minus 2. And that's why it has taken 0 as the extreme value. So this is 0 as the extreme value, whereas minus 2 is the other value. So let's consider 0 as the extreme value. And the average profit is minus 1K. If you look at this, we can see the product that is causing this problem. It's Cisco telepresence system. This is what has caused the problem. So we can actually go back and check what was the compulsion for which the Cisco telepresence product was sold at such a low profit, in fact, a negative profit, even though the value of sales was very high. So these are usually things that managers will typically investigate, because why would you sell something at a high value when you're not earning any profit? There may be some long-term interest, maybe a very loyal customer, there may be other factors because of that, but we need to know what is the reason. Sum of sales is higher than expected. Obviously, the value of sales is very high. The average sales is 12,000, and the total value of sales is on the higher side, is like somewhere over here. Okay, but the problem here is the profit. This high value of sale should have given a reasonable profit, but it's not doing so. So we can see how we can make a scatter plot that shows the relationship between two measures, sales and profit in this case, analyzed across any one dimension. Usually the dimension should be picked up such that it has a large number of values. Otherwise, the scatter plot will not be effective.